The United States pushed Xi Jinping to extend his term, turning him into the dictator portrayed by Western media. Believe it or not, this video will tell you the story of 10 years of China-US competition and why Xi still remains in office. Since 2018, the first trade war began. The bitter rival Trump and Pelosi really joined forces to sanction Huawei. The 29-year period of peace and cooperation with the United States was over. In that period, China endured a lot of humiliation. From 1989 to 2001, China made concessions in many international affairs for joining the WTO. Ironically, after defeating the Soviet Union, the US grew increasingly arrogant. It believed the WTO had a devastating effect on socialist states, from Russia to the Czech Republic to former Yugoslavia. After they embraced the WTO, global capital quickly flooded in and destroyed the basic national industries. Look at the former Yugoslav states and even Russia. They essentially became crippled economies. China believed joining the WTO was an opportunity, while the United States believed it was a trap that could turn China into another doomed Soviet Union. So the US agreed to let China join in 2001. China then focused on growing the economy and became the world's factory. In 2016, when two US aircraft carrier groups entered the South China Sea, the Chinese naval officers wrote farewell letters. War could have broken out at any moment. The US found that after joining the WTO, China was getting stronger, not collapsing as they expected. So the US wanted to interrupt China's rise by force. But China was prepared its nuclear deterrent. If the US fired first, both countries would be destroyed. A month later, the US chickened out. Since military confrontation was too risky, the United States shifted to economic and political containment. Then Canada detained Huawei CFO, and Netherlands blocked lithography machine sales to China, and Hong Kong's unrest was inflamed. Because Hong Kong was China's financial artery, cutting it mint, choking China's economic bloodstream. And it wasn't only US politicians. Washington ordered all its client states to join the sanctions. China's leadership knew the China-US clash was unavoidable. Then in 2020, the pandemic arrived. You may not expect this, but the pandemic actually delayed the US's full-scale sanctions. China handled the outbreak better and had fewer deaths, and the world needed Chinese goods. Meanwhile, the United States government was overwhelmed by its own internal failures. Millions died. Although they refused to admit it, evidence increasingly pointed to Fort Detrick in the US as the source of the virus. What was intended to hurt China ironically delayed America's offensive. By 2022, the US had begun a full containment strategy. Biden is not actually foolish. Behind him are America's biggest interest groups. Both Republicans and Democrats agreed on sanctioning China. Xi had just completed 2 terms in 2022. Could China replace him? No, everyone in China understood changing commanders mid-battle means disaster. And China-US competition is not a 3 or 5 years conflict. It's at least a decade-long struggle. You know, if a new president took office, he would need time to understand the situation and reorganize his team. Xi is effectively a wartime leader, like Roosevelt, who served 4 terms during World War II. Is that dictatorship? What about Putin, Merkel, Modi, Erdogan, all ruled for over a decade? Are they all dictators? Trump made nearly daily political moves during his term. Could a new Chinese leader understand Trump as well as Xi? A new leader would first lead to stabilize internal factions before confronting external pressure. And everyone knows the US is highly experienced in counter-revolutions and political disruption. In critical moments of history, someone must lead the struggle. Now, Xi was the one to shoulder the fate of 1.4 billion people. Is that a responsibility an ordinary person could take? Why was his reappointment approved unanimously? Because the reformists, conservatives, and even hardliners all agreed. Resisting foreign pressure comes first. Xi is a mature politician facing US Presidents Obama, Trump, and Biden. He has not fallen behind. Look at how other countries collapsed under the US's pressure. Japan paid $450 billion. Putin be dragged into endless war. France be robbed too. Meanwhile, China now produces 70% of global chips, leads the world in EVs and for the highest-end chips. It's only a matter of time. So, what's the state of the China-US trade war now? There's temporary calm. Trump even praised Xi as great and is planning a visit to China next April. Why? Because he saw China is a powerful and respectable opponent. Trump only praises strengths, you know that, right? In short, based on the opponent's strategy, China arranges its leadership accordingly. Basically, the US forced Xi remain in office for 3 or even 4 terms. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, for the ordinary people, results are more important than procedures. Follow me an Eastern perspective to see the world.